Good evening. On behalf of the governing body of the City of Passaic, we welcome you to the May 7th, 2024 City Council meeting. In accordance with Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting was provided by resolution of the Municipal Council adopted on June 13th, 2023, setting forth the schedule of regular meetings for the year 2023-2024. Said notice was published and posted on the City of Passaic on the City Hall Bulletin Board by the Office of the City Clerk. Please be further advised, this public meeting will be conducted in person. The Zoom stream provided is for viewing only and is offered to the public as a convenience. On April 19th, 2024, public notice and Zoom instructions for this meeting were published in the Herald News and posted on the City of Passaic website at www.cityofpassaic.com, council agendas. Instructions are also available on the last page of this agenda. Please be guided accordingly.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Mello,
Present.
Councilman Garcia,
Present.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez,
Present.
and Council President Shear.
President, should we please rise?
Heavenly Father, we want to thank you, Lord, for allowing us to meet this evening. Heavenly Father, as we meet this evening, Lord, we ask for a special prayer, Heavenly Father, for the Laura family, Lord, that are experiencing, Lord, such a great loss, and also for the Fernandez family, Lord, that also suffered a loss during this time, Heavenly Father. And we ask you to please guide us in the decisions that will take place this evening. In your beloved name we pray.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members of the council, as you are aware, you received a cover sheet asking for a change in item number 23. In your packet, the version states, under the now therefore be it resolved that the City of Passaic, that the bids for the municipal parking deck be rejected and re-advertised. The new version, which greets you when you came in, states the same paragraph, excepting the term is emergency traffic signal repairs rather than municipal parking deck. So if we may respectfully ask you to disregard the municipal parking deck in favor of emergency traffic signal. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President, members of the City Council, those in attendance and those who will watch via online. Some of the events that have occurred over the past few weeks, on Saturday, April 27th, 2024, we had our asphalt art event. We had over 100 volunteers that came together with us on the intersection of Columbia Avenue and Monroe. An estimated again, over 100 volunteers joined with Easy Ride for a fun-filled volunteer paint day to make the intersection of Columbia Avenue and Monroe Street beautiful and safer. This intersection was strategically chosen due to congestion from vehicular and foot traffic in the area. The purpose of the mural was to increase visibility of the crosswalk and pedestrians to slow down drivers. The winner of the mural design was Angelica Otero Vargas, who was awarded $3,000. This is one of the first murals that we seek to do throughout the city. Again, it enhances pedestrian and vehicular traffic and makes the area safer. Among the additions, we're looking to do more bump outs in our curbs in order to ensure that when vehicles are turning, those who are crossing, especially during school hours, are safer. Also, we wanted to share that our passport clinic run by our city clerk, Weatherly Frias, and her staff went remarkably well. The city hosted this first passport clinic where residents were able to get passport services without appointments just in time before the summer, as many were planning to travel. We had over 100 residents come for service in a line that wrapped around the entire block. Kudos, and I commend the hard work of our city clerk in her efforts to bring services to our community. It sometimes is a bit challenging for residents to get appointments to go get their passports, but here in the city of Passaic, our clerk made it available for everyone to come right here and do it. In fact, it went so well that we're hosting a second one, May 11th. We'll have a second passport clinic from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., where individuals who need to apply for a new passport or renew a child's passport and take a passport photo can contact the municipal clerk's office at passport@cityofpasaicnj.gov for further details on the required documents to bring. I believe that there are no adult renewals. Madam Clerk, is that correct? There are no adult renewals. However, if you had a passport when your child was a minor and they need to renew as an adult, they can come in and have it renewed. Am I correct, Madam Clerk? Thank you. Thank you very much. On May 19th, we'll have our family bike ride at 11:30 at Veterans Memorial Third Ward Park, as we have done in previous years. For more information, please contact our Department of Recreation, 973-365-5630. Our ongoing city projects are Colonel Johnson Park Green Acres project. I'm excited to announce that on April 25th, we received the incredible news that this vision for the park's revitalization was recommended by the NJDEP for a grant of $2.15 million. So we're extremely excited about that as we move forward in enhancing even more of our parks. Our CDBG storm and sanitary improvements sewer line on Montgomery and Monroe Street was replaced. 3 manholes on Central Avenue from Burgess Place to Harrison Ave will be replaced this week. Our Columbia Ave and Jefferson Street parking lot, PSE&G installed new service poles and contracted planted trees landscaping, and the final electrical service connection is the only thing pending to open up these brand new parking lots and additional parking spaces in our city. Continuing using our NJDOT or New Jersey Department of Transportation local transportation project funds, we are creating ADA ramps, or Americans with Disabilities Act ramps. These are those curb cuts that make it easier and more accessible for individuals in wheelchairs, mothers with their carriages, or parents with their carriages rather, or individuals on bikes to get onto the sidewalk when necessary and appropriate. We are continuing on these ADA ramps on 3rd Street, Jefferson Street, Hoover Ave, Van Houten Ave, Passaic Avenue, Montgomery, and Monroe Street. On Market Street and 125 South Street, we are continuing with our efforts to create a brand new river walk right downtown, utilizing our waterfront property on Market and South Street. It will beautify the area and offer additional green space for residents to enjoy, walk, exercise along the river. We receive funding through the UEZ Urban Enterprise Zone for this project. Bids will be open at the end of this month for this project. Continuing with our initiative of DPW driving through the wards to assess and fix potholes, the roads have resulted in 85 potholes being fixed over just the last 45 days. I remind residents that the winter takes a toll on our roads, whether it snows or not, the cold weather, the heavy trucks, sometimes salting and preparing for whether it's going to be sleet or ice or snow. Again, our roads take a toll. But during the spring, we have our initiatives to repair, to pave and mill, and obviously fix potholes. Some of the areas that we have been working on, Dwarsline in Amsterdam, Main Avenue, Burgess Place, additional 154 Main Ave, Howard, Henry, Barber Ave, Gurley Street near Brook Avenue, Park Ave, Spring Street, 10th Street, South Street, River Drive, Myrtle Ave from Howe Ave to Monroe, Elliott Street, Hughes Place, Albion and Randolph, Paulson Ave, Westminster Place, Park Ave, Stewart Street, and Tennyson. For those who perhaps don't live on these particular streets, we assure you that we will get to your streets shortly. And then lastly, I want to take this opportunity, a personal point of privilege, to thank our police department, our fire department, our emergency responders, all residents of the city who have extended their condolences during our department's loss. I want to thank the chief for his most heartfelt eulogy at the funeral. The efforts of our chief Guzman, the DCs, the chief of the fire department, Patrick Trenacos. It was a remarkable and honorable send off to our police officer, who I will share was a dear relative of mine, close to my heart. I want to thank all the officials that came by, called, extended their condolences, and all those who came from other municipalities, police, fire, elected officials, as well as state officials and congressional representatives who reached out, as well as the governor who called, Officer Laura's wife personally, and shared his condolences. That is the extent of my report. One last thing, I did fail to mention that we also had the Cinco de Mayo event here in Passaic. I want to thank Deputy Mayor forgive me, Mr. Jamie Delgado, who stood there in my place, and he gave the wreath with the council general. They had a most dignified event, as well as Deputy Mayor Juan Dudan for their seminar and presentation in regards to youth anxiety, access to social media and cell phones, and help to prevent from falling into the wrong path with gangs. They had over 200 individuals present at this event. Councilwoman Mello was there along with my wife, who represented the city. They gave out certificates, and these remarkable leaders, I believe they had psychologists present, remarkable speakers, officials, and it was a great event. Thank you, Councilwoman Mello, for stepping up and representing the city at this event. And with that said, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you very much. I know it's not necessary to say, but the council was obviously extraordinarily saddened by your family's loss, and to our police department as well. Forgive me, sir, you mentioned 1.2 million grant.
$2.1 million. So I had previously presented an idea. It began as an idea to turn one of our parks into a complete water park, to have two ships created, sort of a Passaic pirate park, Pirates of the Passaic Caribbean, or what have you. We were still working on that. That's not what we're going to stay with, but those are some of the ideas we were throwing up on the board. And obviously, when it comes to ideas and visions and the logistics, they become important, but funding is paramount for the advancement and enhancement of our green space and recreation opportunities for our youth. As I often share, there are a large number of young people who don't have the means to travel during the summer. They don't get to do the trips to Disney World or travel out of the country or go around our nation. So the trips around the city become extremely important for their experience. I often use this example. Come September, when the kids come back to school and the teachers ask, "What did you do for the summer?" Many of them draw pictures of where they went. And it is our goal collectively to ensure that our children aren't left with pictures of just staying in their rooms or being limited to their backyard. So this innovative and great opportunity to really create a unique recreational opportunity, we were excited because we received a grant, and it was recommended $2.1 million. It was a unique project, and it was recognized as one of the more unique applications throughout the state. I think we may have been the only one to put in the idea of creating a Pirates of the Caribbean park in the city. So sometimes these out of the box ideas pay off. I remind people that they are grants and competitive. So if we don't receive them, another municipality will receive them. They are specific to the park, meaning sometimes people go, why can't we use that money for something else? And I use this example. If you win a gift card to Dunkin' Donuts, you don't get to take the gift card to an AMC theater and say, I want to buy a movie. You can only apply for what the fund is for. So we apply for parks. We get grants for parks. We apply for many other opportunities, infrastructure, and other needs. But on this one, we were extremely excited to receive one of the highest recommendations for allocation. And we look forward to additional advocacy on our behalf in the process from our state representatives, including our assemblymen and those who represent our district. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
it's going to be a water park?
A complete water park. So the difference is in many of our parks, we have a spray pad. It's one of the components and one of the amenities among many other things, swings and climbing. But this will be a complete water park. The entire park will be focused on this, considering the summers. And, you know, it's great living in an urban city. And it is typical where you'll see the fire department hook up a hose with a few holes in that hose, obviously hose HOLES on the actual apparatus, because I know the two words sound exactly the same. We're not putting two different hoses together. What I'm saying is that they'll poke little holes inside of the apparatuses, water hose, and all of the water comes spraying out. This is fun. But we've noticed a growing need for our children to find something productive to do in those extra hot days. So the idea of an all-water park, but we're taking a pragmatic approach. The two amenities, the benches, and some of the additions will also be conducive when the season is done. You'll still be able to climb on the boat and go down a slide in October when there's no water on it. You'll still be able to have certain activity, but in the summer, it will be a complete water park in an area which was much needed. Colonel Johnson Park is on Harrison, right by number 10 school, and it's adjacent to our school number 10, a block away from our Dayton Avenue complex. So the proximity to many of our schools and one of our more densely populated area make it an ideal amenity for our children to enjoy recreation close to home, where parents can go across the street, and maybe you don't get to go to a water park in South Jersey. South Jersey is great. You can cross the street and enjoy this water park. So we're very excited in the city.
Unbelievable. My wife would kill me if I didn't ask the question, and that is, will Johnny Depp come to christen the park?
I don't know, but we will send the letter and the request. Listen, Passaic got to have an astronaut come here, Wyclef John, speak. DMC came down to school number 6 and spoke. So at this point, we're not afraid to reach out to any celebrity. So we'll write out a letter and see if he would be interested in coming and promoting this brand new park.
Brilliant initiative, Mayor. Brilliant
Thank you.
initiative.
Thank you, sir.
Questions for the mayor at this time? Very good. Thank you very much. We are on Roman numeral 5 of our agenda, January 25 and February 6. If you're listening to us now or present here in council chambers and you do not have an agenda and you would like one, you can access that through the city's website. We'll also provide you with all the resolutions, communications, etc., that the council received and are the basis for tonight's meeting. For the minutes of January 25 and February 6 of the City Council, are there any additions or modifications that need to be made to the minutes? Seeing none at this time, is there a motion, please, to accept the minutes as presented?
Second.
Motion and second. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez, and Council President Shear.
Yes, thank you. The minutes passed. We're up to Roman numeral 6, please, with your permission. Hearing of citizens. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-1 et sec, the council opens every public meeting for comments of the public. However, in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12, nothing in this act shall be construed to limit the discretion of a public body to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation at any meeting. Therefore, please be advised that the council will not entertain any comments from persons who communicate obscene material, make statements which are considered bias, intimidation, in which a person intends to intimidate any individual or group because of race, color, religion, gender, handicap, sexual orientation, or ethnicity, or makes comments intending to harass or speak any offensive language. The person who makes these statements will relinquish their allotted 5 minutes for public discussion. Is there anyone who would like to address the council at this time?
Yes, good evening. Joe Conoscenti, 170 Broadway. Council President, I brought it up at the last meeting. The property on 147, 149 Broadway, it's a health hazard, it's a safety hazard. You got a roof coming down. They did a cleanup, but they put all the garbage in the backyard. Now you got a whole big pile of garbage in the back. The porch is coming down. Everything's coming down in this building. I just noticed the sign out on the door that they have a meeting tonight and they're supposed to be bringing up this property. I'm just wondering if the business administrator could give a little update on it, on what they're gonna do with this property. My next question is, why are we paying $1.6 million on Main Avenue and Benson Avenue on the flood area again? Once again, what is the plans? What are you gonna do with it?
Mr. Innocenti, can you give me a little bit more understanding of what you're asking?
Well, you got $16 million to do a flood area. So what are the plans? What are you gonna do with that $16 million? To stop the flooding? How are you gonna do it? What are you gonna do? Because I doubt if you're gonna solve it. There's been too many years like this, it ain't gonna be solved. But anyway, my next question is, the summer is near. I would like to know if there's gonna be a curfew. I know there was one in place. I don't know if they still, it's mandatory. My last question I have here is, I'd like to know, since a lot of funding is going around, maybe you can get a little funding on Passaic Avenue and Park Place for the fountain. I'd like to see that back in order, hopefully. Somebody could look into it. Because my gesture is, you need a pump, and you have recycled water. So it's not, I don't think it's a big issue. But somebody has to look into it. These are my questions I have.
Very good. Thank you so much. Mr. Fernandez, 147, 149 Broadway.
So that's part of a designated redevelopment plan. They have cleaned it up. They were going to demolish, but they wanted to get approvals before demolishing the building, obviously, to not spend additional funds. And they're supposed to be heard shortly. So this evening,
Which board does that go?
so this evening, it's for
Board of Justice.
excising a condition of approval, and then it would go to the planning board for the final site plan. So today would be zoning board for an excision of a condition, and then following that excision, they're able to go finalize the site plan and go to the planning board for final and preliminary site plan approval.
Okay, thank you. He also mentioned Main Avenue and 16 million, and I'm not getting it.
Council President, if we,
Please, Mayor.
this is one of the few times, but I would hope that you are a prophet, because if we receive $16 million,
I didn't say 16 million, 1.6 million.
1.6.
Yeah.
One can, Jim.
I was going to say, I heard 16 million as well, and I would tell you it would go so far. So this is the first time we've received 1.6, because I believe the question was, what are we going to do with 1.6 again? It's the first time, and the goal will be obviously to address the culvert, the specific area of concern, and I believe that's going to be High Street and Benson, as well as Main Avenue and Benson, which oftentimes when we have flash flooding conditions, the water rises, and as it sort of, the best term I can use is bottlenecks in that area, the water overflows out and creates dangerous flooding conditions. We had presented to the state as well as the federal government dealing with FEMA after the major storm and the unfortunate loss of life, some ideas, working with council members, with our engineers, to try to come up with solutions to mitigate the flooding conditions. We proposed whether we would put a grate right over the brook, whether we would be allowed to dredge the actual brook to go lower. And these weren't permitted by the state, by the environmental departments and groups that oversee obviously what work can be done. However, we put in a plan after many conversations and working collectively, as we often do, to try to invest in some green infrastructure, perhaps expand the green area and narrow one of the roads, creating a two-way road on one side closer to where you would see the tennis courts and the animal shelter. And by creating more green space, obviously reducing the chances of flooding that would result in dangerous conditions for others, as well as most recently, we reinforced the railing where before they were individual pieces. Now it's one contiguous piece connected, making it much harder if a vehicle were to crash into it for it to come through it. We also put up a barricade on the Main Avenue area to try to prevent anybody coming into it during these dangerous flash flooding conditions. So the 1.6 will go a long way for infrastructure. We added more inlets and storm drains. So we're going to continue to invest. And then this is good. And I refer back to environmental justice initiatives, green infrastructure. We will plant many, many trees in the area that have practical purposes in sort of creating a natural barrier, as well as being able to soak up more water in these conditions. So $1.6 million is going to go to some of the street elevation, addressing the culvert, expanding the green area or grass area, and ensuring that we have safer conditions for those who find themselves in that area.
Mayor, can I expand,
Yes.
with your permission?
Sure.
Another question. Main Avenue, our primary commercial area, commercial district, I know there's some extraordinary and wonderful plans out there. We're still without any funding source. There's discussion. Is there anything
That's coming up on Main Avenue?
yeah.
I mean, there's so much that's coming up. And again, grants are competitive. So we try to maximize our opportunities. Like we're getting $6 million for a brand new state-of-the-art bus terminal right on Passaic Avenue and Main Avenue that connects from the train station down through Monroe Street. The business administrator, please share the EDA $5.2 million.
Yeah, so we also received another grant from the state EDA Economic Development Agency of $5.2 million.
But that's for Van Houten.
No, that's
for
Main.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the $5 million for Van Houten.
No, that's a
That's
flood mitigation.
separate.
This is,
Yeah.
he said Main Avenue.
Go ahead.
So the $5.2 million is for this corridor, including Broadway, Passaic Avenue, and the Main Avenue Central Business District corridor. That was the grant that we just received from the state.
No, that's a great point. You actually reminded me. We also received $5 million for pumping station on Van Houten Avenue under the bridge by the train station. So when I saw the $5 million, it immediately triggered back to the flooding. But yes, we are receiving historical funding from the state, from the federal government to make genuine improvements and enhancements to areas around our cities, investment in our commercial areas. And I pointed to the $6 million state-of-the-art bus terminal because that's not only going to result in much needed transportation for a population that doesn't always have the means to buy vehicles and need to get around, but also it's going to open up space where the old bus terminal is for some creative funding sources and opportunities to see what we're going to do there with some of this money, whether we create additional parking, passive recreation, or move further on this larger vision of having a promenade down Main Avenue. We still hope for that. We still apply for that. It seems like we're getting the money bit by bit. In addition, we received over $12 million for a new parking deck that's going to be built. And I would say optimistically, but cautiously optimistic, that we may have that in the next 2 years completed. A brand new parking deck with over 300 new parking spaces right here that will benefit directly our commercial district. This bus terminal that will bring people from Main Avenue to Market Street, where we have many of our restaurants, what we refer to as our bistro district on Broadway. So we continue to make investments, working collaboratively. And I always say relationships matter. Our relationships on the state with representatives, our relationships in the federal government, our relationships with the county have resulted in more funding for enhancing our parks, for creating new fields, for creating new opportunities. Two other projects, and I don't want to go too long on it, is we're moving along on creating the racetrack or a walking track in Third Ward Park, rubberized walking track to give individuals opportunity to enjoy, just like we did down by number 8 school on 4th Street and by number 11 school. So that's extremely exciting. And we are very close to getting the full rubberized surface on Tennyson Park for the children, making the recreation much more enjoyable and safe. So we're extremely excited about the additions and the funding that continues to come in. So if you consider the EDA $5.2 million for Main Avenue, $6 million for the bus terminal, $12 million for a brand new parking deck, $2 million for this new park in Colonel Johnson, this $1.6 million for flood mitigation in Benson, an additional $5 million for Van Houten Avenue. The city of Passaic, in just the last 6 months, have been able to announce over $30 million invested to our city. And I would say that's not too bad for a city like ours. And
It's really.
Not too bad.
if I would-
It's
do better,
It's
man.
an effort. You
But
can
if I-
do better, Mayor.
if I may, not too bad for a city, not too bad for this council, not too bad for our administration, and more importantly, not too bad for residents that really care about Passaic and continue to fight for our progress. We can do a lot more. We're doing pretty good together, and I think that should be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, sir.
You're not
I
done yet.
believe we answered all your questions.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Well, then, we don't care to answer.
I know you don't care. That's the point.
Yeah.
I know that.
Would anyone else like to address the council at this time? Yes, sir.
Ari Mack. Good evening. I would like to wish my condolences to the mayor and the city police department. As the summer is beginning, I'd like to say that our parks has no shade, unfortunately. I brought my nieces recently, my dear nieces, and I see there by the Tennyson Park, there's no shade. And I went to other parks and throughout different municipalities, they have a overhang or something that creates shade in between. My suggestion is either we could create some shade by having a overhang, or we could create some trees in order to prevent sunlight, especially the sun is very powerful to children and it can cause, God forbid, it can cause sun cancer. And we don't want that in our lifetime. So I would like to hear from our city to see what we can do to prevent the sun in our parks.
That's the conclusion of your remarks?
Yes.
I know we have an active tree planting program. Councilman Monk.
I just want a question. Are you referring to this water park, this new water park?
No, in all parks, I'm saying.
You know, I mean, one comment I have is,
I dressed as Tennyson Park.
okay, you know, this weekend I was walking through the park with my wife, and she says to me, you know, we take for granted this beautiful park we have here in the city. If you would take this park and it would be in another community, another city, we would say, wow, they have such a beautiful park.
Correct.
You know, it's so pleasant to walk through the park, and it's very well maintained, you know, and I believe a lot of people from other communities come to Passaic, you know. There are a lot of cars that I say, no, these people are probably from other cities. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous park. And I think that being that we live here, we don't appreciate what we have, you know, and there are a lot of trees in this park, and there's beautiful trees, and there's cherry blossom trees, right? You know, there's no end to what you could do. And there are many areas of this park, many areas where there are plenty of trees, plenty of shade. You know, so I'm not sure, you know, if it's, so, you know, Tennyson's another area, you know, so on and so forth, you know, so just find an area where, you know, we can sit under the shade if you want the shade, you know. But I just wanted to comment how, you know, we take for granted this park that we have in Passaic, which is extremely unique. There's not a lot of communities. You know, if you have 500 cities in the state of New Jersey, I doubt there are more than a handful of cities in the state that have parks that look like ours.
Councilman, if I may, today, over the last 4 years, we've planted over 700 new trees in our park. We keep a record through our DPW of how many trees we put in the city and specifically in our parks. I know in Tennyson, there were 3 major trees. They were cut down, 3 of them. There are specific reasons why trees get cut down when they die, considering the storms, and obviously children, they become weakened or compromised. And the DPW, our tree team, or our tree division, as Council President had referred to earlier, has an obligation, duty, and responsibility by law to have to cut them down. The other reason would be, as I mentioned, Tennyson Park is going to be resurfaced. The whole ground is going to be rubberized. So we are looking to see how we can address the issue of having to take those trees that were compromised, and obviously after the rubberized surface to see what other amenity we can add. But to Councilman Monk's point, yes, there are trees in every single park. I mean, we've added an additional 700 over the last 4 years, which is extremely exciting. But these are the reasons why trees would be cut down, either specifically because they are dead and they pose a public safety concern, or there is work that's going to be done. But I assure the public that anytime we cut a tree in the city, in a park, we end up planting more than what we cut, sometimes twice, 3 times, or 5 times as much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Councilman Love?
Yes, actually, the mayor articulated what I was going to talk about with the trees. And just to add to that, when you're spending that kind of money for rubberized surfaces, you have to eliminate some of those trees. We can't control the roots and how they grow. And before you know it, as the mayor pointed out, you have a safety hazard because now you have a wavy surface with kids, trip hazards, and all those other things. And Councilman Monk articulated the best. And we do that everywhere. There's not shade everywhere in any park. And if we get, we go into overdrive or we overheat, we walk away and we go into the shaded area, right? And or we go into the spray ponds, which is not too far, and we get wet and we get out of there. I'll tell you, as a parent, you want your kids to get some sun. And as a grandparent, I definitely want them to get some sun for a lot of reasons, so that by the time I get home, they're sleeping and they're wore out. So I have to agree with Councilman Monk that, you know, our parks, and in fact, in a very short time under this administration, has transformed into oasis of parks. And I'm talking about surrounding municipalities who claim, different counties who claim to have so much funding and money. With what we get, these parks is immaculate. I don't know if you have the opportunity, but if you just go to each one of our parks, whether the weather is nice or not, people are out there, they're walking the tracks, they're using the exercise equipment daily. I mean, sometimes you can't even see the surface of the park and the grass because there's just that many people on a regular basis. So I just wanted to, you know, speak about the trees and the shade as well.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else wish to address the council at this time?
Seeing no hands, move to close the public hearing.
There's a motion, second, please. Motion and second to close.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez?
Yes.
And Council President Shear.
Yes, thank you. We're up to Roman numeral 7 of our agenda. Ordinances for second and final reading. A hearing is required. Number 1, proposed ordinance 2446-24, an ordinance amending the designation of restricted parking for disabled persons by New Jersey license plate number. Is there a motion, please, to open public hearing?
Move it.
Motion?
Second.
And second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez?
Yes.
And Council President Shear.
Yes, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, the council will be deliberating proposed ordinance 2446-24. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on this issue and this issue only?
Seeing no hands, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez?
Yes.
And Council President Shear.
Yes, thank you. On the ordinance, is there a maker, please? Motion and
Second.
second, roll call, please, on the ordinance.
Councilman Monk?
Yes.
Councilman Love?
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello?
Yes.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez?
Yes.
And Council President Shear.
Yes, thank you. And next, please, with the council's kind permission, proposed ordinance 2447-24, an ordinance amending chapter 259, streets and sidewalks of the City of Passaic Municipal Code to include requirements for keeping sidewalks adjacent to handicap parking areas clear. Is there a motion, please, to open public hearing?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
and second. Roll call?
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello.
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Shear.
Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the council will be discussing proposed ordinance 2447-24. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on this item and this item only? Yes, sir. Your name for the record, please.
Ari Mack. I'd like to get a clear understanding, what is this exactly? Like, what exactly is in the agenda of this?
I'm sorry?
I'd like to know what exactly are we on the ordinance?
Did you have the opportunity to read the ordinance?
Yes, but I'm not understanding it.
Very good. Mr. Fernandez?
So Council President, this would keep the area adjacent to a handicap parking space clear of obstruction. The mayor had received a number of calls and concerns regarding handicap parking spaces, and he requested that, it would be clear of any debris so that someone who has difficulty getting in and out of the vehicle can do so without any obstruction. And this creates a penalty for those who are found to be obstructing those parking spaces.
Thank you. Councilman Love, please.
Yes, quick question, administration and mayor. So these handicap spots tend to be a little tight sometimes in residential areas. So I'm putting my garbage out. I have quite a bit of garbage. How do we determine whether I'm in violation or not by simply?
That's a good question, Councilman. And I want to clarify that, and of course, we receive concerns throughout the city, and we don't arbitrarily decide to create ordinances based on one or two calls. We try to do our due diligence, see what has occurred in other municipalities, speak to our engineers, talk to our attorneys, and see if things are legal. And then once they're vetted, we present before the council with these initiatives. We've seen an increase in handicap vehicle parking. We don't designate handicap. That is done by the state. Because it's motor vehicles, that's a state agency. You get your designation as a handicap individual, then you apply in our engineering department in order to be approved for a designated space. If the particular block is conducive for one of those handicap spaces and it hasn't been maxed out, you receive a handicap space. What we're seeing with the increased spaces, especially by our commercial areas where there's mixed residential and commercial, individuals were placing their garbage right at the edge of the sidewalk, almost by street level, filling up the handicap space. If you're handicapped and you already have some concerns in terms of getting out of the vehicle, they were having a challenge opening up their door and getting out of the car. The purpose or intent of this ordinance is to ensure that in that parking space, you're not blocking the access of an individual to come out of the car. Now, the sidewalk is wide, and you are right. It can be a bit subjective, forgive the term. If someone's placing it, are you blocking the pathway for pedestrians or are you blocking the car to come out? We believe that our ordinance that was passed through the city council at the wisdom of the council and at the advice of the engineer limited a certain amount of handicaps per block. So we feel there should be sufficient space where you can place your garbage without having to block an handicap space. However, like any ordinance, if we find that this has become more of a burden than a solution, then we would bring it back to the council to readdress. But we have received enough concern from community members going, we're seeing increased amounts of garbage blocking these vehicles, and the complaints have justified that we act in order to try to assist individuals that are already facing challenges while they're driving. They shouldn't be blocked into their car because someone put in 5 or 6 bags at the handicap space because they figure the other spaces are free.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the ordinance? Seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
Move. Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please, to close.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Sher.
Yes, thank you. On the ordinance, please, is there a maker?
So move it.
Second.
Councilman Monk.
Yes.
Councilman Love.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello.
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Sher.
Yes, thank you. Was that on the ordinance?
Yes.
Very good. We're up to number 3, please, with the council's permission. Proposed ordinance 2448-24, an ordinance authorizing a short-term tax exemption for property identified on the official tax map of the city of Passaic as Block 3220, Lot 27, corresponding to 437 Paulison Avenue in the city of Passaic, New Jersey. Is there a motion, please, to open public hearing?
Move it.
Second.
Councilman Monk.
Yes.
Councilman Love.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello.
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Sher.
Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, the council will be deliberating proposed ordinance 2448-24. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on this item only?
Seeing no hands, I move to close the public portion.
Second.
Motion and second to close. Roll call.
Councilman Monk.
Yes.
Councilman Love.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello.
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Sher.
Yes, thank you. On the ordinance, is there a maker, please?
Move it.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk.
Yes.
Councilman Love.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello.
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Sher.
Yes, thank you. That was on the ordinance again.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Very good. We're up to communications, Roman numeral 8 on our agenda, items 4 through 11, is it?
6.
4 through 6. That would do it. Are there any questions, please, on items 4, 5, or 6? Seeing none at this time, is there a motion, please, to accept items 4, 5, and 6? Motion
Second.
and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk.
Yes.
Councilman Love.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello.
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Sher.
Yes, thank you. All matters listed are considered to be routine in nature. Separate roll call, please, on 16. Are there any questions on 16? Seeing none, is there a motion, please, to accept number 16?
Move it.
Motion
Second.
and second on 16 only.
Councilman Monk.
Yes.
Councilman Love.
Abstention.
Councilwoman Mello.
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Abstain.
And Council President Sher.
Yes. Next, please, on items 7 through 15. Roll call, please. Are there any questions, please, on 7 through 15?
Move it.
Second.
Council moves in seconds. Roll call.
Councilman Monk.
Yes.
Councilman Love.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello.
Yes.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez. And Council President Sher.
Yes, thank you very much. We are up to resolutions. Resolution Roman numeral 9. Number 17, resolution authorizing closed executive session of the City Council. Ma'am, do we need closed session?
No, Council President.
Thank you. Mr. Fernandez?
No, Council President.
Mr. Marisser?
None at this time.
Thank you, sir. Members of the council. So why don't we take 17 off? We have before us 18 through 34.
Council President, respectfully, 30 and 31 separate.
Separate vote on 30 and 31.
Sir.
Are there any other questions? Councilman Monk.
Question on 22.
Yes, sir.
Contract for 2023 NJ DOT Safe Streets. Are the intersections already identified where these funds are going? And specifically, what are they doing to these intersections?
Mr. Fernandez.
Yes, so the base bid is for Passaic and Acre Avenue traffic light. The alternate bid is new traffic poles. And the second alternate, which is all included, is additional ADA ramps above and beyond what the mayor stated in his report on Passaic Avenue and Prospect.
Thank you. Thank you. On item 24, again, we had a discussion earlier about the brook, right, and the damage, flood damage. So I would imagine this also includes between Pennington and High, that piece as well, right after, where it crosses over Pennington Avenue.
Councilman, if I can ask you to speak a little bit
Yeah,
louder,
I'm
please.
sorry. Does this include between Pennington and High as well? Or is this specific, or is this for along the Tennyson Park? This resolution for contract design?
So the design is going to include Benson Avenue from Pennington, including High, all the way to Main. So the design, similarly to kind of what the mayor was alluding to, was to see how that area, right, how far that money will go to get us from all points, clearly addressing the focal point, which is more between High and Main, which had the highest level of flooding, especially in that High Street kind of dip. So that's where the focus is going to be on, but it's going to address as much as possible from Pennington all the way to Main.
Because the area from between Pennington and High, a couple of years back, we spent a lot of money with the design, but it didn't work. Remember, right? So here we're talking about $250,000, up to $250,000 for design. How do we hold these engineers, their feet to the fire, that if they design something that doesn't work? First, I'd like to know do we know who designed the last one? As in the same group? Okay.
Ms.
How
Mason.
do we,
Mason.
I'm sorry?
Oh.
No, I mean, we spent, I don't know if it was $1 million or whatever it is in that area. And as the mayor mentioned
We have
earlier,
the economy.
DEP, didn't allow us to do things which we wanted to do, like to dredge it out more, widen it, whatever it is. What has changed? I don't think Trenton has changed, or these organizations have changed in terms of what their guidelines are, what they let us do, what not to do. So short of, things changing from the top, from Trenton in terms of the DEP, why are we spending now another? Obviously, I understand it's going to also include other areas which we didn't do before, but here we're spending money again. It's not needless to hear that we can't do anything.
So if I could shed a little bit of light on that, and you actually hit the nail on the head with the limitations for that section of the canal, right? So we weren't allowed to make it wider or make it deeper. Okay. So some of the things that have happened, Pennington Avenue, the bridge, over the culvert was redone. And just piggybacking on right, the county covered the cost of redoing that bridge to allow a better access or flow into the canal. And what the mayor stated on green infrastructure is the focus of this design, right? So you can't touch the structure of the canal. So it's going to focus on the green infrastructure. And another key point that I don't want to just skip through that the mayor mentioned in passing was the elevations as well. So some of the issues that happen on that section of Benson is that the inlet that would lead into the canal was actually lower than the top of the canal. So that created an issue that water would just go flow right back into Benson. So the elevation of Benson also has to be addressed, which is all included in this design. The first discussion was from Broadway to Main, just the canal, nothing on either side of the canal, nothing on the roads. So that's why you got new walls and things like that, but you didn't touch any of the exterior areas of the roadway except for
That's what's changed.
Right.
I want to make sure that the public and those who see that years ago, when you are right, we were left frustrated. The design is accurate, the flooding issue did not seem to be mitigated, did not seem to be resolved. I would propose that we have seen an increase in flash flooding in the storms, and that's very different from before. Forgive me, I'll share that those are points that are extremely important to highlight. The funding we received years ago and the design, which all of us have expressed our frustration, and we understand with the resources and limitations that this particular service was provided by this agency. We can debate that another day. However, it involved the entire canal. from Broadway here. The difference now is we are concentrating on this particular area, and we have received increased funding. We have also resulted in the unfortunate loss of life. We've had 3 lives lost. So this historic funding that lets us focus in a specific area, whether the $5 million by Van Houten under the underpass or the specific money that we've received for the entire Benson Avenue, it allows for inlets. The green infrastructure, which after seeing some of the work that we've already done, and over the last 3 storms, I mean, I keep sharing it. We saw reports on the news of municipalities adjacent to us. They were still flooded days after the storms. We were clear the very next day. We went to DPW. We went out with our engineers. We went on Facebook Live and showed people the very next day, the parking lot, the inlets, the elevation of the roads, the planting of the trees. It appears to be working. So we're now not focused on investing on what possibly might work. We're looking at what we've done and saying, let's expand on this according to the recommendations of our engineer, working with our colleagues and getting suggestions, and then going out there and saying, this is working on a small scale, let's expand upon it. So the money right now will be concentrated from Pennington all the way to Main Ave. And I think every suggestion we received, and as perhaps as weird as this may sound, the unfortunate loss of life, devastating impact of Ida resulted in FEMA coming here to the city. Mr. Sean LaTourette, director of our DEP, our EPA, or our environmental agency in the state, walked with myself and Assemblyman Scher. So we had some of the individuals that make those decisions right here on the floor saying, this is what we need to do. So I would propose that I feel that what may be different now is because of the extenuating circumstances surrounding the area, what we can't do in the actual canal of the brook, we're going to do so much around it. And we've seen it already start working.
I'm no professional from it. I don't understand.
Councilman, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I mentioned it a few times. I don't understand how, I understand, but planting the trees that soak up more water.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Again, you're hiring someone for $250,000. I'm sure they'll give you a better, hopefully for that money. I'll do it for half. Is that
You should have just got to that from the beginning, Council.
listen, so I don't know how trees help in flood flashing. The trees help when there's rains, it soaks in.
Not flash
So
flooding.
flashlight, it's not going to help.
No.
Okay.
This helps afterwards.
Okay.
But remember, it's all of this together. So the street elevation, the addressing the coverts, putting in the additional inlets. The covert itself is going to be the main focus, the one on Main Avenue. Obviously, making sure that the water can flow through the canal and the brook into the Passaic River instead of overspilling. When we did the parking lot, which became a benefit, obviously an amenity to the park for individuals to come and enjoy the park, but what we also were able to eliminate is in terms of the design prior to it, the permeable surface of grass, it came down almost like a hill. So when it rained, the water that was coming from Brook Ave, right in front of the animal shelter, was meeting the brook water that was rising and creating sort of this temporary ponding, or in certain cases with the horrible storm, dangerous situations, a river that was being drawn. Once that parking lot was created and with the curb, the water is no longer meeting the water on the other side. So if we can create more grass space and then plant more trees, obviously, because the trees, here's the other part, it becomes a natural barrier, meaning cars don't easily get through there into the brook. So with the railings, with the trees, with the additional grass, that helps. So you're right, you are correct. It helps more the few days afterwards, because we've seen that ponding last sometimes here for 2 weeks, which isn't safe, especially in the summertime, because it becomes a breeding ground for mosquitoes. So there are many practical benefits that come from the trees, and as well as the maple trees have been shown to absorb more water than even the willow trees. So that will even expedite the process of the water being soaked up, and better for our parks in general. Because when that occurs, I propose, and I don't want to go too long on this, we become more privy. The public goes, why do you guys know so much about this? Because we sit through these meetings, our council members and ourselves, for long hours. What happens is when there's a lot of ponding and the water is there for a long time, it compromises the tree. And when the tree is weak, when you end up with a storm with strong winds, it increases the likelihood that that tree will fall. So preventing that accumulation of water the additional trees has so many benefits. One, it preserves nature. It really helps in terms of the environmental groups and receiving more funding as they see that we're planting trees. But it also prevents the ponding, mosquito breeding, and it helps to not have those roots compromised when that water's there and it's saturated with water. And also people get to use the park more when it's not full of water the few days after.
And then there'll be more, and more shade. I want to, yeah.
And more
I need
shade.
To that.
That's the thing I left out.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, Council President.
Councilman Love, please.
Yes, on resolution 19.
Resolution 19, sir.
Yes, 25 license plate readers. With this additional purchase, how many would that bring us up to?
Chief, could you help us on that, or Mr. Fernandez?
Yeah, so this is gonna pretty much cover the fleet that's on the road and a few extra. Right, Chief?
Yeah, so we have approximately 6 license plate readers throughout the city. Okay, so we have approximately 6 license plate readers, and this is a grant that we received, not a grant, a gift we received from the state last year. Been in consultation with the administration about how to make the city safer with these license plate readers. We're trying to catch up through technology in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so now even cars that may be unregistered, uninsured are automatically read as you drive by.
And we get alerts.
Yes.
We get alerts, and we got them in strategic locations in the city. Locations entering the city, exiting the city, some of our major thoroughfares, and we get notifications instantly. That helps us with stolen cars that might be used in crimes. This is huge because this should definitely have impact.
Yeah, because before it's the antiquated way, right? Call in dispatch.
Running a
And
plate.
they run the plates, and hopefully train gets back in time before the
Right.
crime is over with.
Yeah,
So
once the
this-
crime is done and we then trace back where this car was, we can actually follow a car through town by it triggering the license plate readers and then the mobile units that we have in the Bureau, letting us know instantly, this car's at this location. So this is going to be significant.
Okay. All right. Just a question for administration. Now, they said the extended warranty is only 1 year. So what was the standard? 30 days?
So, I mean, now
This
the
is
warranty, I mean, that's the manufacturer warranties that they have on these things. Usually it's 1 year and then you buy an additional year. That's the typical.
Okay.
On it, and that's why you get the extended.
So technically, we're going to have 2 years warranty somewhere in that neighborhood. The one that comes with the manufacturer, and then it'll kick in. Okay. All right. That makes a little more sense. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Monk, please.
All right, quick question. These are for the cars or these are to place around the city? I heard two different things here.
These are going to be at permanent locations
Oh, no, not.
throughout the city.
Oh,
They're on
okay.
These are
permanent
going to be at
locations.
permanent locations. We have
From a
cars also.
technological point of view, the Russian, I'm sorry, I just had to do that.
But this is
Yeah,
for
These
permanent.
are for permanent spaces. So for
permanent space around
example,
the city, right? Okay. So it's two different. I didn't think that came across.
Yeah.
No, and it did. And I'm glad you pointed that out.
yeah, that's,
It's almost instantaneous,
traffic
the
lights.
response, isn't it?
yeah, so like
Traffic lights.
Councilwoman Mello said, for instance, this is a big tip. We're gonna have one right over here, coming off the highway. You know, one of the places where certain people might come into town and right away it'll trigger, hey, you got a stolen car, unregistered vehicle. Right away, it'll let us know.
This is huge.
This-
Yes.
Yeah, this is big.
Professor at University of Criminal Justice, and one of the things that often comes up is that crimes like, talk about these often, catalytic converters routine.
Yes.
Our chief, who is a professor in college criminal justice, he has shared this often. There are studies that show that crimes like catalytic converters that are taken, and we've seen that spread throughout the state, sensors off vehicles, usually occur with individuals coming into a city, doing the crime, and trying to find the easiest access outside of the city. Having these strategically placed in the points of entrances and exits out of our city will help not just to be able to investigate and capture individuals, but with specific signage, can prevent these crimes, as individuals may come into the city and read small, you and your plate has been recorded. It's things that we talk about potentially doing, but we want to make sure people know why we're doing it, because it automatically catches license plates and lets police officers know if something is up.
Do any of our officers, chief, have to be trained in this?
No, it'll just set off an alarm that this is a stolen vehicle, for instance. It's an unregistered vehicle. It's, you know, like Councilman Love said, that we would call in plates that were suspicious. Crime has changed. I mean, people used to just come in with their cars or whatever. Now they're stealing cars, right? There's an issue in the past where people were stealing cars and then using those cars to commit crimes.
And plates.
And the reason past in some of our major crimes, this is the pattern. They steal cars. And so we might be able to catch these cars the day that they're stolen or the day before, not after the crime occurs.
How does it work in terms of, I mean, updates must be constant.
Yes, it's instant.
Who provides that information?
It's through the system. We have a program, certain individuals have a program. So we're still in the phase of who's going to have access or to the notification. Right now, we're looking at our commanders from each shift to have access to this, and the sergeants, the supervisors to have access to this. Eventually, I would envision that every police officer will know there's a car.
There are other systems, or is this the only one?
There's a massive database.
Yes.
The information goes on. So you'll have the state, you have other municipalities, you have county, but as the chief mentioned, a lot of these crimes where there's a stolen vehicle, we've had incidents where vehicles were stolen from municipalities far away and utilized in cities like ours or our neighboring municipalities for a crime. Now the reported vehicle from, let's say, you can go as far down as South Jersey as Salem or
things like that,
or wherever. It reads immediately that car entered into Passaic. Now the chief's notified, obviously our department, but because it's a massive database, the state is notified, Brunswick is notified, so they can work in a more collaborative effort to try to prevent any additional crime and stop the vehicle where it's at.
So are there other departments in our area?
Other municipalities that have these systems in place. Just one more example I could give, so a crime occurs, we have a plate, but it's a stolen plate. It'll still trigger that stolen plate, that car was in Clifton, Garfield. We can follow the pattern and from that, maybe even deduct that it might have been involved in another crime in another town or what have you.
And it's good because if one municipality miss it is not the right word, but doesn't see it quickly, then the other municipality will call.
One municipality might not be looking for that car. We might be looking for it because it's something that happened in our town, but Garfield might have it in their town. They were in their town at 1 o'clock. The crime occurred at 1:15, and then they left town into Clifton at 1:25, and we piece it all together. With technology has become a significant resource for detecting crime, preventing crime, so on and so forth. But this is big. I've had several conversations with the mayor about how we could best locate these, and I think it'll be a game changer.
Yeah, Council President, if I may, Chief, in the beginning, you talked about the source of funding that this is coming from. What is that?
It was
American Rescue Plan.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 147,000, something like that.
148.
That it came. Yeah, I think it was the end of last year. Yeah, it's not coming out of our pockets.
Okay. Now, is this something that we would be able to use, like the I don't know the right terminology, but the forfeited funds, like when we take confiscated funds and cars and things, will we be able to use that for additional?
If we have enough funds, forfeiture funds can be utilized to enhance police equipment and
depends
technology, but some of the more expensive technology, we defer to the chief and the police department, the prosecutors. We sometimes don't get the lion's share when it's a major crime. If we're working with the federal government, if we're working with the county, there are times, obviously, through forfeiture funds that we can fund certain equipment, and that's a huge benefit to our taxpayers.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I have a light on.
Councilman,
Um,
Councilman.
Yes, just quick question. I don't know if this will pertain to this. With these new technology, will this also be able to measure noise at some point? Anyone who's, because I've seen
That's-
municipalities are really getting
Only if they're
advanced.
driving by.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
they are.
that's a very important and good question, Councilwoman. And during this time, we start to see noise levels increase. That's something that we are looking into moving forward. So you're asking, are there technologies? Yeah, there probably is.
The challenge
Technology.
with the quality of life, Chief, is this. This is what happens. I want to make this very clear. What occurs for our police? Typically, someone calls and says the neighbor is playing loud music, especially at nighttime, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. The cops show up, the music gets lowered. The cops leave, they receive a warning. The cops get called again, they come back, the person lowers the music. Sometimes they lower it before the cops even get there because the neighbor has already told them the cops are coming. They lower it when the cops come. The cops give a fine, they receive the fine, they leave, they lift up the music. I will share with the council that I've asked our city attorney to explore the possibility of confiscating the items that are creating the loud noise. That if after a certain amount of time, meaning if the cops have to return to your place, and I'll throw out a number because we are exploring this, and I've asked the chief and the attorney because I received so many of those calls. If our police have had to go to your property 3 times, that's obviously a resource that's being used that could be on the street fighting crime. There's a cost to our city if we have to keep responding to the same location, whether or not in terms of the investigation of whether or not there was loud noise, your entire equipment can be confiscated, brought to City Hall, and then you can come in and claim it again. And we're exploring those options because at this point, we need to make clear to individuals in our city that your music is great for you. Look, I admit I'm a little older. When I was younger, I loved playing my music loud in the car. Now that I'm older, I'm not interested in your music. You should be listening to your music in your car. I'm not interested in that song. Keep it in your car. Same thing in my house. I think you can enjoy your music without the entire neighborhood having to know what you're enjoying. It becomes difficult, but we are exploring additional options. But yes, there is a particular level of noise, Councilwoman, as to what you're asking. There is equipment that we can measure it. I wanted you to understand the challenges for our police. When they get there, if they show up with the equipment to put out, that music's already been lowered.
Yeah, but I was thinking more, since it's capturing the plate, say a car is driving by, this plate number, then you could just mail the ticket, not utilize our officers because they're busy doing other
Okay,
stuff.
so for that's at the discretion of the police officer. So for instance, when I used to walk the beat, cars would come by with the music blasting. I would pull them over or call for another car to pull them over. I would issue a summons. And yeah, that doesn't need much technology to enforce it that way. As far as a music reader or something like that, might be a little more difficult.
Just thought I shared that. That's all.
Colleagues, on 18 through 29, and 32 through 34, are there any questions further? We're looking at 18 through 29 and 32 to 34. Seeing no lights at this time, is there a motion please to accept?
So move.
Is there a second, please? Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes,
Councilman Garcia. Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Shay.
Yes, thank you. On items 30 and 31, are there any questions, please? Seeing none at this time, is there a motion please to accept 30 and 31?
move it.
Move it. The chair will
Second.
second for purposes of a vote.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Abstention.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes,
Councilman Garcia. Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Abstain.
Council President Shay.
Yes, thank you. We're up to room number 10 on our agendas, ordinances for introductions and first reading, number 35. An ordinance amending the designation of restricted parking for disabled persons by New Jersey license plate numbers. Is there a motion, please, to set down for second and final reading at our meeting of May 21? Is there a motion, please?
Move it.
Motion
Second.
and second. Roll call, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
yes,
Councilman Colon Montañez,
Yes.
and Council President Shay.
Yes, thank you. Number 36, please. A bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements by the city of Passaic, appropriating $14,700,000, therefore, including a grant in the aggregate amount of $10 million from the State Department of Community Affairs, $525,000 from the City Capital Improvement Fund, and $475,000 from the City Reserve Fund for parking improvements, and authorizing the issuance of $3,700,000 bonds or notes of the city to finance part of the cost thereof. Is there a motion, please, to accept for second and final reading at our meeting of May 21?
Move it. Second.
Motion and second. Councilman Monk.
Yes, thank you. Specifically, what is these funds going to be expanded on?
So it's to build the parking deck here across the street on State and Passaic.
But I thought it was a grant that we're getting from this.
So we're getting $10 million from the state, and then the rest of the funds are from our accounts that are specific for parking improvements, and then a bond of $3.7 million, which will be offset by the shared service agreement with the parking authority. So ultimately, the city would not be bonding for it. It would come from the park. Well, the city would be reimbursed for the debt service by the parking authority.
So it says here, the bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements by the city of Passaic, appropriating 14.7 million. So the bond is not 14.7?
No.
The bond is only 3.7.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they required us to put it that way.
Okay.
And we had to move the grant reserve into the capital, and that's why this is written the way it's written,
So we're only borrowing 3.7.
right? Which will be reimbursed. The debt service payments will be reimbursed
Where,
by the parking
so
authority.
where does the parking authority get their money from to pay our bond, to pay for the cost of interest?
The meter collections,
Mhm.
the meter and the ticket collection. So it's pretty much the same as what our current agreement is. If you recall, the similar agreement was made by this council and the parking authority when they purchased the parking islands in the middle of Main Avenue. That debt has been paid off, which gives them the opportunity to be able to enter into the agreement with the council for this debt. So it's just, you're just switching from the parking islands was paid off, and now we're switching it to the parking deck. Same type of agreement.
So the parking authority to date has no bond, there are no bonds?
The bonds have, I'm happy to report, thank you for bringing it up, that it's paid off.
Are there other bonds that the parking authority is paying for?
No.
At this point? Okay.
Nope.
But I just to understand, prior to the creation of the parking authority, those dollars of meters, right, those quarters went into the general fund of the city, right? If I'm not mistaken, the reason why the parking authority was created was to give them the ability, give us the ability, right, to bond for parking and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
The only point, the reason I'm making this point is that this costs us, even though it's being paid by the parking authority, but it's costing us meaning us, the residents, to pay for this. Because those funds, meters typically, quarters from the meters, right, typically go into paying for your cost of running City Hall, right?
So
Cost of running city
it
budgets.
does
So
as well.
I'm making this point is that we shouldn't look at it as this parking deck is not costing anything. Paying off this $3.7 million is money that is from the meters. Money from the meters typically goes to a city to cover their cost of payroll, whatever it might be.
So
Well,
that's-
or I would share, and I think you make a valid point. What would we have used the money for? Which would be the discretion of the governing body, the council, the mayor at the time when this was changed. The benefit of the costs goes to the residents, right? We're putting a parking deck. So if the money, if we received it in our own funds and say, we're gonna build a parking deck, where you're getting a parking deck. You're getting streets, you're getting
Right,
parking lots.
the point I'm making
The
is,
if I may, because we're talking now about several aspects in terms of specifically how does one utilize debt. With this scenario, the money is, there's no new money here. It's all being recycled from one city agency to another city agency and paying it off that way. The short-term proceeds, in fact, short-term assets, are in fact just that. The money collected from the meters, if you notice when it was done, and there was a lot of controversy when we set up the parking authorities, you all remember, Councilman. And I think this might predate you, ma'am. I know the Councilman Love and not the Councilwoman. But that's exactly what the funds are for. And one of the basis of the funding this way is because it doesn't affect your credit rating.
I appreciate that. Yes, correct. That was what I was wanting to set up. Again, I'm not debating the deck's a good thing, not a good thing. It's for the residents and so on and so forth, right?
I'm saying the salary, you mentioned the salary, which I think is important. Parking enforcement salary are paid through this. If we didn't have parking authority, we would have to pay their salary or not have parking enforcement. Either way, it's going to the same people who are going to enforce the parking around the city.
Right, but if those quarters could pay off a $3.7 million mortgage, call it, right? I mean, there's a lot of quarters. So just so we understand.
But those quarters will be added to a lot more quarters coming from the parking garage.
From the parking deck, that's what we're forgetting about.
Proceeds with the parking authority. So.
And the proceeds are to the city, enter to the city's benefit because they're in fact controlled by the city.
Okay.
Right. So it's not as simple as.
Fair enough. Okay, so what's the analysis of how much money do you think this deck, based on occupancy, right? Based on X amount of spots, based on what percentage is each spot typically occupied, at what cost, how many
How long
dollars?
would it take us to pay off this debt?
We're building a $14 million structure. I'm sure we have some analysis of
What's the cash flow
revenue,
basis?
what it's going to bring in from those quarters based on X occupancy, based on how often, typical spend. I'm sure we hired engineers or consultants.
This also, the money also has, the borrowing has to be approved by the state of New Jersey as well.
Right, so what are we expecting this thing to drive revenue to our parking authority?
I think that would be an answer for the next council meeting, so we can give you an accurate number. Because if we pull them, obviously we would consider how long it took to pay the islands and when we began to receive additional funding that helped to pay to enhance our parking enforcement, to create more meters, to buy more meters and bring in more revenue. But to have that exact number of a projection, or an estimate number of a projection of how much revenue would come in with 300 spaces, the time that it's going to be used, I would ask that you give us to the next meeting so we can give you accurate numbers and not pull numbers out.
Thank you. Good.
And what kind of paper is this, Rick, in terms of duration?
20 years. Yeah,
Okay.
it's 20.
We're on 36. Are there any other questions on 36? That being the case, is there a motion, please, to accept 36?
Move it.
Motion and second, roll call on 36, please.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilman Colon Montañez,
Yes.
and Council President Sher.
Yes, thank you. Payment of bills. Are there any questions on the bills as presented by the clerk? Seeing no lights at this time, is there a motion, please, to accept the bills as presented?
So move.
Motion
Second.
and second, thank you. Roll call.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
Council President Sher.
Yes, thank you. Administrators report, Mr. Fernandez.
None at this time, Council President.
Mr. Mayor, sir?
Yes, I would like to take the opportunity to congratulate the re-elected commissioners of the Board of Education, Commissioner Danny Rodriguez, Commissioner Judith Sanchez, Commissioner Ron Van Rensselaer. They were sworn in yesterday at the Board of Education meeting. And I want to congratulate the new president of the Board of Education, Judith Sanchez, and the new vice president, Marianne Caperci. I share, just as a matter of potential history that was made, this may be the very first time in the history of our city where we have a woman as the president, a woman as the vice president, a woman as the superintendent, and a majority woman board. So obviously, as March was Women's History Month, and we celebrated so much a couple months ago, it is a milestone, a glass ceiling that was broken, and we recognize as we continue to celebrate our diversity in our city, our many, many cultures, which enhance and bring so many benefits to our community. Also, the month of May is Jewish Heritage Month in the United States of America. We want to wish all of our residents of Jewish background happy Jewish Heritage Month here in the city of Passaic and around the nation and the world as we celebrate all of our communities during their specific month of heritage. And that is the extent of my report. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. There being no other business properly advertised by this council for this meeting, is there a motion, please, to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion
Second.
and second to adjourn. Roll call, please, to adjourn.
Councilman Monk,
Yes.
Councilman Love,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mello,
Yes.
Councilman Garcia,
Yes.
Councilwoman Colon Montañez.
Yes.
And Council President Shields.
Yes, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.